I am Brad Keeler. She is Teresa Andrzejak Laux. Next on Director's Cut, find out what Geo legend Bob Kerner taught her about failure. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Director's Cut. My name is Brad Keeler. I'm the director of the Geo Institute, and that is why we call this show Director's Cut. Every single week, I sit down with a different GI member who tells us all kinds of amazing, wonderful stories about themselves. Some of them are personal, some are professional, all of them are fun. If you do not know anything about the Geo Institute, there is this thing called the internet. There is a website on said internet, geoinstitute.org, that will tell you that we have about 12,000 members, most of whom are geotechnical engineers and or geologists, and that we are an institute of the American Society of Civil Engineers. So with those things cast aside carelessly, we welcome our guest for this week. Coming to us from the Philadelphia area, it is Teresa Andrzejak Laux, the Chief Technical Officer from Aero Aggregates. Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you, Brad. Thanks for having me.
We are going to have, as we always do, a good time today. We have prepared 10 questions to have such a good time. 2 of them are the same as they are every week, and we start with one of those. Describe your job in 45 seconds.
Okay, well, so I deal with everything technical here at Aero, right? So I am involved on the R&D side of things, including product development, additional testing that we do for expanded applications. I'm also involved on engineering support and education. Lastly, I handle all of our technical documentation and any type of report writing or paper writing that we have to do. So just a flavor of what I do at Aero.
So very quickly here, I think you guys are unique, maybe not alone, but unique among all these companies that are part of the Geo web, in that you do your own R&D, or a lot of your own R&D. What does your R&D portfolio look like? How do you guys come up with what you want to do? How do you manage it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, some of what we do is kind of in response to the folks that want to use our products, right? So if they have a specific application that they're looking at and there's still questions on, how foamed glass aggregate will respond in this application, and there, are tests that we can do to, start to explore that. That's one of the things. Another way that we get involved on projects is, by people saying, hey, have you ever thought about using it here, right? And that kind of takes us down different things in product development. Right now, we're exploring sizing our material so that it can be used in concrete, cement block, other types of composite systems. We're also doing things, this is so funny, but for open cell product, we get involved in kind of the agricultural uses and some of these filtration uses that is a little bit out of my wheelhouse, right? I'm a geotech, but it's so fun to learn about them. So
I think anytime you make a novel product like you guys have, you're going to get those oddball calls where somebody accidentally discovered that it can be used for something. Archie, when he was on, we talked about this earlier, used the pet fur removal example. So if anybody's got a piece of foamed glass aggregate sitting around your house, get rid of that cat fur right away in your car's upholstery. We have to ask fun questions on Director's Cut too. It's why we're here. It's why the people watch. Let's be honest. And so we start with this, Teresa. What was your most important, maybe not your favorite, but it could be your favorite, stuffed animal as a kid?
I didn't have a stuffed animal that I can remember that I loved. I'm a child of the 80s, so I had Care Bears, Cabbage Patch Kids, that sort of thing. But what I loved was my blankie, right? I remember it was this pink and white kind of checkered pattern that one of my mom's friends made me. And you know, obviously outgrew it, but it kind of led into one of my hobbies, which is quilting. So I'm a quilter, and I try to make sure that any of my friends and family that are having kids have a nice little baby quilt for the new baby.
Do you still have any pieces of the blanket?
I don't, it might still be at my parents' house. Who knows? But no, I don't. But that's what I remember. I remember carrying that around, to wherever I was, all around the house was my blankie.
A totally acceptable substitute for stuffed animals, I think. So we always ask a research or practice question on Director's Cut, and I used the word unique already when I was talking about aero aggregates. I'm going to use it again because you've got kind of a unique background. You've been a little bit of everywhere, whether it's academia, contracting, consulting, now manufacturing, whatever it was. How do you feel like do you feel like these experiences play off of each other? What's something unique, again with that word, that you've learned as a result of being in all these different areas?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, all of my experiences to date have given me the tools that I need to do, my current job, right? So I spent time in academia, and, we here at Aero, being a fairly new product, there are unanswered questions. And so, kind of my academic training, right, has given me, some of what I draw on in order to solve some of these outstanding questions that we don't know, and coming up with approaches and testing programs and all of that. I spent a little bit of time in the contracting side of things, so construction, being in the field a bit, and that has helped me greatly, right? Being able to actually see something be built, look at what was on the page with how it, how somebody else envisioned that it could be built, or how it could be sequenced, and then actually being in the field and understanding like how all the pieces come together. That is super powerful, and I think field work is a little underrated by some people, but I can tell you, and I didn't even get the opportunity to spend a ton of time in the field like, some of my peers have. But just, the small amount that I did, it had a true effect on me. And, I would recommend everybody to take advantage of the time that they can, to be on site. And then in, consulting as well, that has informed, a lot of what we do here. We work directly with engineers and architects who are looking to use our product in their design, and, understanding how that process works, from my time as a consultant is also super useful to, to what I do. So it just all kind of flows together, and yeah, we're just all a sum of our experiences, right? And you take the best of what you can, and there's pros and cons to every job that anybody has ever had. But, hopefully we take those, those pros with us and everything that we've learned.
So we're attempting at GI to celebrate field work. We have a new show on our YouTube channel called Field Trips, where members are telling their craziest stories from the field. Viewers, you should check it out. And maybe we're going to have you back, Teresa, and you can tell us something wild that happened to you in the field. It's got to be good. It's got to be funny. Those are the only rules. And
I got one now. Do you want to hear one now?
Let's go. Let's get your field trip.
All right. So I'm going to tell you about from my first co-op, right? I worked for a company that did traffic studies. So, this was when you had to sit at the intersection and count the cars, going left, right, center, all of that. and it was so cold. Right. So I'm in a station wagon. I'm in the trunk of a station wagon, watching the intersection with my little handheld device. And a police officer stops, knocks on the trunk and said, "We got a report that there was, a child stuck in the trunk of an abandoned car." So, I got it all worked out, but that was quite an introduction.
So I have two follow-up questions to this. One is, how old were you at this point?
Oh, it was my first club, so I was probably 19.
Oh, old enough that you don't
19.
want to be mistaken for a child. Number two, what vintage was the station wagon? Was it a nice old one? Did it have the seat in the back?
I don't think it did. It wasn't old. It was old at the time, right? And this was back in like 2002 or 2003. So it was probably like an 80s Chevy, station wagon. Yeah.
That is fantastic. That's great. So we love the field stories. Thanks for that extra little bonus today.
Sure.
I wanted to see, I had a nice transition where I was going to say that we had another fun question, but that one turned out to be pretty fun. So this one is more boring. Which foreign languages do you speak? Even if it's just a few words.
Oh, Brad. So I started at pretty early on in the pandemic. So about 760 some days ago. I started doing Duolingo for German. So I am probably at about a 3-year-old or 4-year-old level, and I probably pronounce things horribly, but I've been doing that, and that's been a lot of fun. So German is the language that I'm learning. So you want to hear a couple words then?
Oh, yeah. Wie geht's, Teresa?
Oh, okay. Wie viele Fragen hast du, Brad?
Ich habe wie viele Fragen.
Yeah.
This is great. This is what the viewers are here for. What's your longest streak in Duolingo?
Oh, I'm at 760 days.
Are you serious? That is unbelievable. I think my longest is maybe about 120. I've never been able to do better than that. That is incredible. That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
So you heard it here first, viewers. I'm going to find you. I'm going to friend you on Duolingo because this is legendary type progress here. I'm very impressed by this. Every night in our house, I think we used to watch it a lot, but during the pandemic, it stepped way up. We've been watching Jeopardy almost every single night, like to the point where I can tell you almost all the champions who have been more than maybe 5 days in a row over the last 2 years. So I have to ask you, Teresa, Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, or other?
Yeah. So really, I love all game shows, but the only one that we really make time for, and not even the official show, but the show on Alexa, is Jeopardy. So my husband and I will have Alexa quiz us a couple times a week. But no, totally Jeopardy. If I had to choose, it would be that.
What about as a kid? If you were into all game shows, did you have a favorite one as a kid?
Oh, Price is Right. Bob Barker, come on down, right?
See, this came up the other night when the primetime one was on, and now with wonderful host Drew Carey. Mm-hmm. I told my wife and my daughter that during the summer when I was a kid, I used to come inside from playing baseball or whatever I was doing at 11 o'clock just so I could watch The Price is Right. They were horrified by this. But it's such an amazing show, and I mean, it's just such a great piece of Americana. I wonder how it translates in other countries, because I can't imagine that it does. But I'm so happy you said Price is Right. That cheers me. Uh-huh. From there, we move to the other question that we ask every single person when they come on Director's Cut. How did you first get involved in ASCE and GI?
Yeah, that's a great question. And my answer is probably similar to a lot of folks in that I got involved in college, right? So probably freshman year at Drexel, I joined ASCE, and from there quickly joined our concrete canoe team. So I was involved in they're pretty closely related at Drexel, the canoe team and ASCE. But my first exposure to the Geo Institute was actually my advisor at Drexel, Joe Wortman. He took me and a bunch of grad students in the group to a Delaware Valley Geo Institute meeting, which is the group that I'm part of. I'm the current vice chair of DVGI right now. So it's kind of funny to think, I'm going on probably 20 years of attending this organization, not certainly sporadically at the beginning, but now much more consistently. And it's been great. I mean, the opportunities for, networking, hearing the latest in, state of the practice, state of the art. There's so many good things that, DVGI and Greater GI does for us. So happy to be a part of it.
Well, that's amazing. That was definitely not a run-of-the-mill I got involved in college answer. So we had a shout out to Joe Wortman, which is awesome. I hope he's watching. I will tell him to watch this. And a pitch for our chapters as well. For anybody watching who doesn't know where their local GI chapter is, or if they have one, we have 60 chapters, people. There's probably one in your area. Go to geoinstitute.org and we will guide you. We will show you the way. So thank you for reminding me to do that, Teresa. I appreciate it. So we've got 4 questions left. They're all super fun. The first one, we all know that Aero Aggregates, or maybe not everybody knows this, manufactures foamed glass aggregate. The first time that you heard this term, what was your reaction? Or I guess it could also be the first time that you saw the product. What was your reaction?
Yeah, no, the first time I heard it was when I was holding a piece of the material in my hand. And I think my reaction was the same as many people that I talked to. And it's, oh my gosh, this is so light, right? And then my second reaction is, wow, this feels a lot like the pumice that they use when I get a pedicure. So it's, I like to describe the product as a manufactured pumice, and it really does have that same sort of texture and feel to it. So certainly different uses, but
So totally legit follow-up that I didn't think of before. Have you guys explored trying to promote this to the beauty industry?
Not yet. Not yet.
I feel like this should happen. This is like, you're going to get off of here. You're going to call Archie and you're going to tell him there are 1 million nail salons in America that could be using foamed glass aggregate.
They need this. They need this recycled product.
There you go. Yeah. Another one that I've been dying to ask somebody, and it just came out this week, and you are the lucky recipient of this one, is what is the most unlikely place that you've ever had a business or work-related conversation?
Yeah. So the most unlikely place is probably when I attended my neighborhood is about 70 homes, and my husband and I, bought our house and went to the first neighborhood summer gathering. I think we only do this about once a year. And I started talking to one of my new neighbors, and she asked me what I did, and I said, oh, I work for a construction company, but I just moved here from Lewisburg and I was teaching at Bucknell. And she's like, oh, what were you teaching? And I was like, I was in the civil engineering department. And here it comes out that her daughter was one of the graduates, of the senior class the year that I left Bucknell. And I knew her. I mean, I knew her well. So it's such a small, that conversation just highlighted to me, like, what a small world it is, right? That, somebody that I've known in one place and move here to, my fairly small neighborhood. And there's a connection that's strong. So.
Do you continue to get updates on this former student?
I do. Yeah.
That's got to be. So here's a big, warm, fuzzy, super overarching one. How heartwarming is it to hear what your students are up to?
Oh, it's so great. It's so great. And I will say, like, networks like LinkedIn has made that a lot more accessible and easier. And, to see my former students, putting posts out there about what they're up to or what they've done, like, I love seeing that. So I do try to connect with as many of my former students there as possible. And, always, whenever I finish a semester, I always offer to my students, like, please reach out if there's any way that I could possibly help them in the future, or if they just want to kind of share their updates with me, I would always love to hear them. So.
And I feel like I was one of those kids that didn't get it, because I'd be sitting there in class and, a former student would show up randomly every now and then, and the professor would be like, oh, this is Bill. He graduated 7 years ago, and look, he's doing these amazing things. And I would just kind of be like, we're stopping class for this. But now, at some point I started to get it, and it made sense to me. And it's got to be wonderful just to see the stuff that everybody gets up to. So there are two questions, again, that we ask everybody on Director's Cut. I don't ever repeat questions. There is one exception to that rule. Anyone who has spent a significant amount of time in the Philadelphia area, has any ties to Drexel, anything like that, gets the following question. Do you have a favorite Bob Kerner story?
I do. I have lots of Kerner family stories, but I definitely have a favorite Bob Kerner presentation that he gave and that I was able to hear. And I believe it was at one of the Central Pennsylvania Geotechnical conferences. But Bob was presenting on a project that he did when he was, I think, 26, maybe 27 years old. It was down here at the Wilmington Harbor. And I think he had to, his company was supervising the construction of a tank to hold, I'm not sure what it was meant to hold, but part of the design was they installed sand drains and we're going to put a surcharge load over top in order to consolidate a, pretty thick layer of clay there at the harbor. And unfortunately, Bob described him as, being the field guy. He's on site, he's watching construction, he's taking, the piezometer measurements and, observing all of these changes that are happening that shouldn't have been happening. He's expecting these pore pressures to dissipate over time, and they're not dissipating. They just keep going up. And, and he's, he described this experience of, writing his daily reports, sending it to his boss either not reading them or ignoring what he's saying. And eventually, the situation at his site got to the point of kind of no return, right? There was an adjacent building that was, starting to have the floor heave because that layer of clay wasn't consolidating the way that it should have with the sand drains. And there was a massive global stability failure that he observed. And, the way that Bob presented it was, what was great about it was, this is like basic soil mechanics. Like, most civil engineers are able to understand exactly what he's describing and what's happening. So just highlighting what a great teacher he was. But then also hearing, his insight into, he, as a young engineer, like these are the things that he faced and the problems that he faced and, what he saw as a failure on his part, to bring what was happening to the attention of, the higher ups and the people that could actually, stop the work. And that presentation just, Bob was such an amazing, just overall guy, but an amazing teacher, an amazing friend, an amazing mentor. And to hear him talk about, this, job or project that went totally south on him, that was just very powerful to me to hear him reflect on that, that time as a young person, as a young engineer, and, the importance of mentorship and, all of that. Like, that was a great presentation. So hopefully many of the people that are watching this video also got to see it. I think he gave it several times, towards the end of his career. I think he, felt more free to talk about it. Certainly it was a project that eventually got litigated pretty hard. But towards the end of his career, I don't think he really cared who heard the story. But yeah, it's just one of Bob's great presentations.
And I think that's super important, because it's hard to sometimes think of these kind of Mount Rushmore figures as being fallible too. Mm-hmm. And just to hear that perspective and to think, oh, maybe I'm not such a giant idiot, or that he this happened to him too, and he learned from it, and look at the career that ensued. So that's fantastic. That's a great story. And I love that every time I ask that question, I have not had a single person yet say, no, I don't have a Bob Kerner story. Everybody's got a great Bob Kerner story. So thank you for that. We are down to our final question on Director's Cut this week. And this one is going to be really fun. I'm very excited about this one. You've been a Pennsylvanian for life, I believe, or at least most of your life you've been in the state. What do you do, or what habits do you have, Teresa, that identify you as a Pennsylvanian?
Yes. So this is something that I do, and I think my fellow Pennsylvanians do, that when we talk about our state, we call it PA. Right? We call it the abbreviation for the state, instead of saying, oh, I'm from Pennsylvania. That's just, I guess, too many syllables for us. But, you don't hear somebody from California saying, oh, I'm from CA, right? Like, it's a very Pennsylvanian thing to do, to just say, oh, I'm from PA. And everybody knows that you're talking about Pennsylvania. And then, some of the other things, of course, are some of the wonderful foods that we eat here and make here. One of those is shoofly pie. That is a favorite dessert in my family, which, if nobody knows what it is, it's basically a molasses pie. And the things like soft pretzels and tasty cakes and snack foods from Utz's and hers, all that good stuff.
So now, you told a story, but before we started up here, that I said was like peak Pennsylvania. And you got to recount this. Your last name is somewhere very Pennsylvania.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So I live in a county in PA where we have, I think, about a dozen covered bridges throughout the county. And one of the bridges is the Loucks Covered Bridge. It's in Upper Bucks County here in PA. And it's actually, many generations back, but of my husband's family. So I am related to the original Loucks, who the Loucks Covered Bridge is named for.
That is fantastic. And now everyone will know, everyone will say PA, even if they don't intend to. And I think we discovered, maybe in the course of this, I even do that. I'm not from there. I spent 4 years there for college, and that was about it. But apparently it indoctrinated me enough that I made that change. So Teresa, you survived. You made it through all 10 director's cut questions, plus the bonuses I throw in that I don't tell you about in advance. You made it all look very easy. And I'm so happy that you're a fellow Duolingo fan. That cheered me a lot. For our viewers, if you liked what you saw today, and I think you did because you're here at the end, you should click subscribe. You should click get notifications, and we will let you know every single time we post something brand new to the YouTube channel, which is frequently. So Teresa, thank you for being here today and for all those great answers.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And we could all go have a shoe fly pie for dessert tonight. It's an acquired taste, I'll put it that way. To all our viewers out there, thanks for watching today, and we will see you with a brand new director's cut next week.